got 152 yards. Should be just a nice, comfortable 9-iron for him. They're going to go nuts when he hits this thing.
That's dirt.
Yo, yo, yo. Welcome in, golf fans, to the Preferred Lines podcast. My name is Joe Idoni. My co-host beside me is John Hazelbauer, and we are going to bring to you a 2025 preview show for the BMW Championship back at Caves Valley this year. Excited to go through some of the new course elements in play, talk through the top 49 players in the odds board this week, as well as recap an exciting, a dramatic, and a somewhat heartbreaking finish to the FedEx St. Jude. John, let's get it out of the way. Let's start right there. You had a Saturday that was filled with syrup and pancakes as part of a fantasy punishment. I don't know if that was worse or if watching what transpired on the back nine, or should I say like the last four holes on Sunday, any worse for you. Sorry for your luck. It's been a tough couple weekends, but we're honing in on finding the winner. What are your thoughts, man, on Tommy Fleetwood's collapse once again?
Yeah, it's kind of like not a coincidence that he keeps losing is my biggest takeaway. Like, he makes decisions that lead him towards losing.
Yes,
and
let's get into this.
Yeah, I think he needs a caddy change.
Really?
Drastically.
I love
because
Finno.
A good man, good lad, not what Tommy needs, I think, because now I was somebody on Nick Taylor when he beat Tommy Fleetwood at the RBC Canadian Open, and I was like, oh, thank God they're choosing to approach the 18th hole this way, because it was his to win, and they just it's only, you watch him play the par fives and the holes you need to score on, and it's like, how do I take double bogey out of play on this hole? It's what it was like watching Tommy Fleetwood down the stretch there. And the juxtaposition of watching Tommy Fleetwood this past week versus Cameron Young is so stark. Like, two guys who were put in the same bucket as great players who haven't won yet. And Cameron Young's mannerisms, his quotes in the pressers, getting out to a hot start and doing everything you have to do to win a golf tournament is so night and day from everything we've ever seen from Tommy Fleetwood in a closeout day. He's just so afraid to make the mistake. And you need somebody who's going to go out and win the tournament. And that's just not what Tommy's going to do. It's so much scar tissue, and it's so palpable. It reminds me of Rory's final round at the Masters, where everybody knows the scar tissue is there and it's palpable and you can see it, and you know you're just trying to not make a mistake out there, and you're gonna get caught if you have that mentality. And that's what we saw again. So I watched that final round and I said his first win's got to come in like a cupcake event where he builds a big lead and nobody's good enough to go out and catch him, because if he approaches his Sunday rounds the way that his game plan was there, he's just always going to get caught.
He kind of had that after Friday. Like, he had a decent pad, had a lead, had a favorable leaderboard at the time that the second round wrapped up. He had a course that was an ideal fit, I think, for his skill sets, that were the majority of holes played favored a player who plays a draw, who favored a player who hits a lot of fairways. And it started on Saturday. He was really bad all weekend. And I wrote up a piece actually on Saturday night that I was like, this is his time, because I just felt like he flushed that out of the system on Saturday, with the double bogey. And really, like you mentioned, there becomes a moment in time where, like, I forget the exact Arnold Palmer quote, but it was something like, you have to play boldly to win, and he just doesn't do that. And it started on Saturday with the 18th hole and a decision to essentially lay up there.
Yeah.
And that Bones highly questioned at the time without directly saying it. Was like, this is a pretty good lie. I don't see why he's not just trying to get this on the green. 180 yards. He lays up. He seemed content to make bogey and just play with a 1-stroke lead heading into Sunday. And then it just kind of it started off really shaky. It carried over into Sunday, and I really felt like he was going to learn from that experience on Saturday and not have 2 bad rounds in a row. Things got better toward the beginning of the back 9 where he made a couple of putts, but the things that he was doing so well when the pressure came down to it over the final 4 holes went completely away. Like statistically, I can look up strokes gained around the green right now this season of all the players in the field, and he's probably in the top 2. The chip he had on 16 was one of the worst chips I've seen from an easy lie. He got bailed out by TIO relief on a horrible shot into a par 5 from 200 yards. Chipped it off the green, then decides to take putter from like 8 feet off, left himself like an 8-footer for par, and it was all just kind of downhill from there. So bad chipping, bad putting. I mean, God forbid Zinger was on the broadcast, would have had an absolute field day on Tommy Fleetwood yesterday. But I just
I want to add too, like
him go for that green on 18 on Saturday. Like, if you make a mistake and you hook it into the water and it gets squirrely out of that Bermuda rough, we'll forgive you. More importantly, you'll forgive yourself, I think, in the end of the day when you look back on it and you're like, I made a mistake, but I was going for it. I was trying to hole it. I was trying to get on the green. I didn't lay up on another par 5 in a situation where I had a choice and a decision to make, and that lack of aggressiveness was something that I was cautiously hopeful that he would learn from past mistakes, and it came back up to bite him again. And it was sad. I don't want to take away from the guys who did make the charge and did do what was required to play aggressively, but it felt like another collapse.
Yeah, I think his double on Saturday was his undoing, because as soon as he put a double on the card, it really just felt like he was playing to not blow up anywhere else. And he was like, well, if I don't double, then the round won't get away from me anymore. And obviously you can't play that way. And Justin Rose is a great example of not playing scared. He put it in the water twice on the same hole and just erased those bogeys with birdie stretches both times afterwards. And you just didn't see Tommy like capable of picking himself back up when he made a mistake. And the other thing I noticed watching that final round is like, he was like timid to take the wedge out around the green. He was always looking for a reason to lag it up with a putter in every opportunity given. So when he put himself in a position where he needed that chip shot, he had no frame of reference. And I think that's actually been a consistent thing with Tommy, where like this is what happened at the Travelers too. He had every fairway in regulation the first 3 rounds. And then as soon as he started missing fairways, he like didn't know what to do. If he was hitting from the rough, it was a bogey. And that was exactly the same thing that happened again this round, because he knows the shots that he's uncomfortable with and he can avoid them for as long as he can. But then when the pressure is on and he has to hit the shot he's uncomfortable with, this cut around the tree on 17, the same exact thing. Like, I'm just playing to my comfort zone. When the adversity is there and he has to hit a shot that he's not comfortable with, he just is not able to do it. And that keeps happening every time he puts himself in these positions.
Totally. And he caught significant amount of breaks too. He got relief a couple of times. There was one opportunity late in the round where he hit a horrible shot and it ended up just short of a bad lie on a bunker. And I think Bones made the comment, like, it's a pretty easy up and down. Hideki got this up and down, and he made it stressful. And it's not like he was like lag putting it well from off the green. Like, he was leaving those 6-7 feet short. And the reason that he probably led the field in strokes gained putting for the tournament is he was kind of banging home those 6-7 footers that he had to make. Now, they were catching a lot of the edge of the cup, but they were dropping. It felt like his time. And it just wasn't meant to be. But I thought it was one of the more enjoyable Sunday afternoons to watch. I mean, just the amount of guys hunting pins and going for birdies. And over the course of the last hour, to me, there was times when I felt like 4 different guys were going to win that golf tournament. And it was exciting. You know, we get to this point in the season where Saturday afternoon comes along and I've got stuff going on with the family. And then Sunday at 3 is normally a time I sit down, and I love golf. I enjoy it. But there's been times throughout the season where it's felt a bit chorish.
Yeah.
Like it's felt like I tell my wife, like, I got to go watch golf. Like, and I'm not like super excited about it. Like, I got to go watch golf because I got to have a show to do. I got to have an article to write. I got to have all this stuff, but I got to watch the coverage. This was like, you couldn't take me away from the TV. I wanted to watch, and I was completely enthralled by every second. It was like, 20 seconds would go by and something would totally flip on the leaderboard, and between the fantastic play, between the names that were making runs, I thought the course presented itself really nicely. I thought NBC did a pretty good job on the coverage. You throw in the St. Jude kids on the 18th green, and it was just a lot of feel-good moments. And they also did a really good job with, and I want to commend mostly Golf Channel for, because they did the most of it, was the impact of the top 50, giving us what the impact was before the shot, right? So Johnny Vegas lines up this putt for birdie that will move him to 48th place, right? That will take him from 51st to 48th. So when Vegas misses, you understand that impact before he takes the shot. They did that a lot with Chris Kirk. They did that a lot with Ricky. They did that a lot with Jordan Spieth. So I thought that they get a pretty good job, the best job that I could remember to date of kind of telling that story, which was a nice added sort of wrinkle to this tournament that they hadn't always played up to its full potential.
I totally agree. I think that was very much missing on broadcasts in the past, and they really leaned into it. It felt new this year that they were integrating those stakes, and that should be something they start at the Wyndham. And they can still improve there, but I would love to see that, like a bug on the screen that is constantly there. That's who's the last man in, who's the last man out, because that is ultimately the biggest implication of that event. It's different than any other. And that trend continues into the playoffs, where it's like, okay, we know there's two different kind of races going on. Not everybody's trying to win. There's like 3 or 4 guys who can win, and then there's these other like 10 guys who are trying to get in the next week, and the implications of that are huge. So I think they did a great job of that. Hopefully that continues into this week. Hopefully the Wyndham picks that up, because it's the same thing with cut sweats too. I mean, you can take that same principle and put that on every Friday broadcast. It's the biggest implication of the day. So hopefully, that's something that keeps happening, because that's what sickos like you and I watch for. But yeah, you're right. It was a very entertaining Sunday. I feel for my wife too, because we have this agreement at the beginning of the year, like major weekends, I'm locked in. Ryder Cup, I'm locked in. Players, I'm locked in. Wyndham, I just am always locked in no matter what. So I'm just like, this is a random one, but you got to give me this weekend. We're not making plans on Sunday. And then to go through the Nico thing last week, and then this week be a random one where I'm like, no, I can't go anywhere. A little bit easier because of the pancake thing.
The Waffle House.
Yeah. The entire weekend was blocked. And if Tommy wasn't in it, it'd be a different story. But it's been a lot of me living and dying with every single stroke the last at least 2 weekends to no avail. But they've been entertaining. Can't say they haven't been entertaining.
It was a good watch. Compliments on the coverage. Compliments, I think Bones and Smile. Bones is awesome. I think his commentary is a huge additive to the broadcast. I enjoy Smiley too. So I've said some nice things about it. Here's 2 things that I hate. Kill the drone tracer.
Kill it.
We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. It was off. It was terrible. I hate that it's predictive and kind of ruins the moment for you. It got Justin Rose's shot in the playoff wrong when it was like bright red and he actually cleared the water there. So like the most exciting additive thing that it's actually brought to the coverage was when it was actually wrong.
Yeah,
I thought. And then what else did I have to complain about? Can we get a whole rotation in the playoffs? The same hole 3 times in a row feels dumb. Changing the whole location. Why is it? Like, is it because they don't want to move the fans and they paid for corporate suites on 18 and they want them to see the finish? Like, is it they have to take a cart all the way back to the tee anyways? Like, play a new hole. Yeah. That part really annoyed me, that they went back to that same stupid hole that obviously JJ Spaun, I thought, was disadvantaged at because he doesn't play a draw and he like couldn't find the fairway until the final one. And it's just a difficult fairway to hit. The same pin was there that was pretty easy to attack from any position. There just wasn't much to it. I don't think it's a great golf hole to begin with. And then to have such an exciting playoff and just repeat the same thing and give guys the chance like Justin Rose to essentially hit the same putt twice. I don't like that. I don't like that.
Did they change since
the third time they changed the hole? Yeah.
Because the Zalatoris playoff, I remember, obviously,
yes,
on the rocks, like there was variance there, and that couldn't have gone like 10 rounds deep. So they must have, maybe because it's a playoff event now, they have different rules, but that doesn't make sense. It should be by the course. So yeah, it's weird. That was a great playoff. I don't know why they would change that.
Give us par threes, dude. I love par threes.
Yeah. I want high variance holes.
Yes, Island Green par threes. JJ was in another one this year that was super exciting, like 16, 17, 18. Give us the 3-hole aggregate again, like we saw at Sawgrass, and you get the par 5, you get your Island Green par 3, and you get your stupid par 4 closer where the fairway is impossible to hit.
Yeah, JJ's gotten a lot of playoff experience.
Before we get to Justin Rose, who I thought is a deserving winner, it was really cool for him to see. Let's talk a little JJ Spaun, because dude, JJ Spaun has got an insane amount of dog in him that I was not giving him credit for. Dude stood next to Scotty Scheffler. It was like unfazed. It was pounding fairways, flushing his irons. Finally made some putts on Sunday, which I kind of saw coming, and I sort of wrote that up before Sunday too. As I'm like, this guy's leading in tee to green, and he's the only one in the top 10 of the leaderboard losing strokes putting. And ever since he switched to that lab putter, he's been a really good putter, and that sort of flipped on Sunday. And you saw, like, even in the playoffs when he missed that putt on the first one and on 18 the first time from long range, like those are sniffing the edge of the cup, man. JJ Spaun was awesome, and it got me sort of thinking, like, previously I kind of thought, okay, he's an auto on the Ryder Cup team, like he's probably going to sit a few matches, but now I'm like, maybe you need to roll JJ Spaun out there a lot. Like, he could be a perfect player for someone, in my opinion, like Scotty or Justin Thomas. Take Scotty out of it. Scotty can play with anybody. He's maybe the perfect player for someone like Justin Thomas, because he's one of the best approach players in the world from the fairway. JJ Spawn's going to give him that. He's going to give him opportunities to open the door to have JT's moment where he stuffs one close or he fist pumps on the green and he can kind of work the crowd into a frenzy like he loves doing. Like, who would you rather have as a pairing right now? Like, would you rather stick out there JJ Spaun or Henley or Morikawa? Because I think Spaun is like in that conversation right now.
Yeah, that was one of my bigger takeaways this week, is like, I've gone from JJ Spaun, the auto that you have to bury and play the bare minimum just because he auto qualified, had one good week at the US Open, and now he's on the team, to this guy should get a lot more run at that stage. And I like running him out with like a volatile player, like a Cameron Young, where he might go birdie, bogey, birdie, bogey, but JJ Spaun is going to be fairway green every single time. So I kind of like that. Personalities of this US Ryder Cup team are really lacking. That's another takeaway. As this team starts to shape up, it's like you got Spaun and Henley and Harris English.
Cameron
Young. Yeah, nobody's really bringing the charisma out. Patrick Cantlay is probably back on the team. Xander Schauffele, like, Scotty. Nobody's really like banging the drum out here besides Bryson and potentially Egan and JT. That's fair. So you got 3 guys who bring some charisma and probably 9 who are just out there trying to win. So it's tough. It's tough. We're missing that like American pride, but I guess we're going to rally behind them regardless. It's just, it would be cool if these guys are more characters. Maybe they'll become characters.
I would love to see like a couple of them come out of their shell. Like, I think Xander's really come out of his shell in a couple of Ryder Cups, and like, he's just uncomfortable, I think, in the media center, but I think he's comfortable in a team setting, and his teammates really love him, and you can kind of feel that energy.
Yeah.
But yeah, super impressed with JJ Spaun. Also super impressed. Can't take anything away from Justin Rose and the way that he closed that tournament, how steady he is with the putter, how he will not, for any reason, whether he's on the clock or holding back Tommy Fleetwood or what, remove himself from his routine. And I think it's the mark of, a player in his mid-40s who has a limited schedule now. This was his first start on American soil since the U.S. Open in June, and he comes out and wins. He's really just kind of picks and chooses his spots now, and when he's going, he still has the ability to close. Now, I believe that was his 12th PGA Tour victory. I put up a post yesterday that he surpassed 73 million in career earnings, so he passed Jim Furyk and Dustin Johnson on the career earnings list, two guys that I don't think have any chance of moving past him again, especially DJ. Yeah. It's kind of sad, but Rose has passed him now, 6th on the all-time career money earned list, one spot behind Scotty Scheffler, who's at 75 million at his young age, who will ultimately he's going to set the pace at some point and be number one. But awesome for Team Rose, man. Really comfortable in his own skin, and just I was really struck by how in the moment he was. He talked about how it was kind of beneficial for Tommy to be able to play with him, but Rose was just an absolute killer out there, and kind of the way he spoke about himself too. And he was like, I know that I can win. I know that I can hold putts. The bigger the moment is, the more that I rise to the occasion, and it doesn't affect me. He's a guy that I'm scared of for Bethpage. You don't want to go head to head with Justin Rose, I don't think.
No, he was bombing it too. I mean, Tommy's not a short hitter, but he made him look real short out there. He was hitting it like he was hitting driver past the hazards on a lot of these holes. I didn't know Justin Rose had that type of gear in him.
The one on the playoff hole. How did he carry that? And he was so confident that it was carrying too. He's like walking after it. He turns back and tells Fuchs, it's fine. You got it by a yard. That extra little 5 to 7 yards that he's packed on is important.
Yeah. So he's going to be scary at Bethpage. I had him on regardless of how he played the rest of the year. I think he's done enough. I think they're just running back the same team at Europe. Like all the discourses about the U.S. Ryder Cup team, the only question you have out there is like, would you take Nikolai back? He hasn't by any means like played himself onto the team, but I think by lack of other options, the only other guy I could really think of would be Harry Hall. And it just seems weird to like bring anybody in new if you don't have to. And it was a successful formula the last time. So yeah, I mean, I think they're running it back. What do you think?
I don't know. I think that narrative makes a ton of sense. I think Nikolai is a liability right now and would be the worst player by far in the Ryder Cup, but I understand the sentiment and like, yeah, let's just bring it back. Our team room was great. We did this together in Italy. We're going to do it again in New York. And like, I get that attitude. And it's like, if I have to chalk up a half point or a point in singles to do so, that may ultimately be worth it. Harry Hall, I do think he probably deserves a spot, but he's just not like, I don't know if
he's not one of the guys.
He's not a European tour guy. Like he's not a Euro guy. He's a Vegas guy. He's like an American golf. Like if I'm them, I probably consider Aaron Rai, but he's not playing great at that point. Like how many matches are you going to roll Aaron Rai out there in Bethpage? Like at that point, if you're going to take an L, just bring Nikolai back. I don't think you take Rasmus over him. I mean, it's all of this is possibilities, but I think the most likely scenario is all 12 get the call back up. We're going to New York.
Yeah, I mean, I'd hear someone out on a Sergio argument, or even Ballister playing well last week, and that's a John Rahm call. Like if he's animate and he has a voice in that room, just to say like, I really want to do this, and it doesn't matter who our 12th is anyway. Let's do this. Like, yeah, Sergio would be a problem. Like he, especially to all these
problem.
He's like first timer. Like you put Sergio in a matchup against Ben Griffin, and he's not going to know what to do with himself. He's going to play mind games with him all the time.
Yeah.
So I think that would actually be a sharp move by them. But again, they got 11 locks, and they can almost do no wrong with their 12th because they're pretty solid 1 to 11. So I don't know. There's not a lot of discourse about what Europe's going to do with the 12th selection. But yeah, it's worth throwing that out there because I don't know. Nikolai by default is my call for now.
Let's do a quick credit check on this week, and then we'll get into Caves Valley. Before we do so, got to mention, because I forgot to at the top of the show is proudly presented by the good folks over at Rotoballer. You see the promo code lines scrolling across the bottom of your screen if you're here with us on YouTube. My Power Rankings article is up there now. I will have the DFS roundtable where we go through each and all of your questions each and every week up tomorrow, as well as Market Movers, which has been doing extremely well, will be out on Wednesday. Appreciate anyone for supporting this show and hopping on over to Rotoballer and punching in that promo code lines. Also, I've had a couple people reach out. If you're interested in sponsoring a segment to the show, please DM either John or I. We are looking to probably pick up 1 or 2 headed into next season. A lot of planning is going to kind of take place over the next couple of weeks. Would love to be able to associate and link with brands that are cohesive, that we believe in. I know a lot of you out there have kind of started similar stuff, so we're open to it. Reach out to us. Shout out to Rotoballer as always. Let's do a quick credit check to wrap up the St. Jude, John. I'm going to give my credit to a little off the radar here, but I'm going to give it to Johnny Vegas. Johnny Vegas 6 under on the weekend to find himself playing once again. Really needed it. There was a tweet put up by me on Saturday that I think I'm just getting like botted to death on, kind of taking I really didn't intend to take a shot at Ricky Fowler because I don't think any of this is his doing. And had any player been put in this scenario, 100 out of 100 of them would have done the exact same thing, but it was more so to illustrate some of the unfairness that I think comes with the sponsor exemptions in the signature events. He was given 5 of them this year. He was given a special exemption. You're not even supposed to get 5. Yeah. He was given 5, and he got a special exemption by Jack into the Memorial, which is where he got the most points of any event. He got a special exemption by the PGA of America to get into the PGA Championship. So 7 total events, earned like half of his FedEx Cup points that way. Players like Johnny Vegas received 0 of those sponsor exemptions. So shout out to Johnny Vegas. Questioning a little bit, where do you sit on the Ricky thing? Like, do you think that it's unfair that someone can be essentially gifted points in no-cut events that ultimately can land them in the top 50, that have a lot to do with players keeping their card now and getting into, more and more signature events?
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought it up because I feel like you ignited this discourse, and now podcasts everywhere picking it up and running with
Are
it.
they?
There's articles being written about it.
Am I getting credited on this or not?
I don't know, but I know you were first.
Okay.
And you brought it up really early, and then like Monday morning, everybody's talking about have you seen Ricky Fowler, the number of sponsor exemptions he's gotten? I see both. I always say I see both sides of it. I should say that less, but like on the one hand, if he's getting sponsors invites he doesn't deserve, then he wouldn't be getting the points he's gotten for it to matter. And I think that was more my issue like last year when Webb Simpson was getting all of the sponsors invites and doing absolutely nothing with them. And it was just because he was on like the advisory council, and you're just wasting it. And there's another player. Yeah, Peter Malnati. Like there's a guy like a Johnny Vegas who's going to be on the cusp who could really use those opportunities. That's not getting a fair shake, and you're just wasting your sponsors invite. And honestly, who's going to the tournament to see, Peter Malnati or Webb Simpson anyway? So that irked me more than the Ricky Fowler stuff because he is having a good year. Granted, it's like a privilege thing. This is the whole concept of privilege. Like he's starting on second base. Is Ricky Fowler. He is marketable, and because of that, he gets more of an unfair advantage to the other people who are trying to come up and make it. Maybe that gives people a little like kick in the pants to like be more personable. be more active on social, be a personality where sponsors would actually be drawn to you. Like if you want your sponsors invite, do stuff that's going to get sponsors excited for you to go. And that might be a bad message if it's more than just play and it's more personality stuff that you're going to force people to be personalities they're not comfortable with just to get an invite, because they're not sending them the sponsors invites to like the best player who didn't get in the field. And I think that's kind of like the tension point here from everybody is like, it should be meritocracy, not just a popularity contest. But you know, at the end of the day, it doesn't really bother me because Ricky's had a good year and he's made the most of the opportunities he was given and he doesn't have a say in it. I'm actually curious if he's like handwriting notes for these sponsors invitations, if he's like requesting, or if they're just like, we can't wait to get Ricky Fowler in our event. Don't even worry about it.
And it makes sense. Like that's what they like. Everyone's like, I don't know. I'm sure that most of these aren't real people, but they're like, you're being such a hater. Like you're such a, you know, Ricky brings in all these fans. And I'm not disagreeing with any of that. Like, I think he is a draw. Do I think that at the truest championship with, you know, the top 50 players in the world, that he's like as big of a draw that people are buying tickets in Philly to like follow around Ricky? Or are they buying tickets to follow around Rory and Scotty? That's where I think it gets a little muddy. Like, are people buying tickets to see him at the Cognizant? Yes.
Yeah.
Are people buying tickets to see him at the Rocket Classic? Yes. The people and their kids want to go find Ricky Fowler. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about the signature events. And I think that there could be a solution to this where you're still able to give players who embrace social media, embrace the popularity aspect, who bring something of value to your tournament, like Ricky would over someone like Johnny Vegas, to your sponsors, to people who want to pay to be in the pro-ams and tee off with these guys. They want to play with Ricky. I get that. I think we can just modify how they're able to collect FedEx Cup points from those type of events. When you don't qualify for the event, should you still earn the same points? Now, yeah, he went out and finished T7 at the Memorial. Like, he deserves something there. So I don't know that there's a perfect answer. Should he get none? Maybe it's like a 50% type of situation where he gets some of them, but I can definitely see that this is, if it's an issue with me, for players like Chris Kirk and like JT Poston, and right on the outside looking in, Chris Kirk wasn't getting any sponsors. Like, this has to piss them off. And players who missed in the top 70 and all this stuff that sort of trickles down, I guarantee the middle of the road veteran PGA Tour player does not like the fact that one player can get 7 of these in one season and play 18 events. It just doesn't feel right. And I think that there can be, hopefully, the interaction and engagement, as volatile and hostile and mean as it can be, sparks the conversation through different podcasts, like you mentioned, and just is a topic of conversation within the people on the board at the tour making decisions. And maybe we figure out a solution to it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it'll be a topic in the next like player advisory council, if enough of these voices, like those voices are always loud. The like, you know, 80th to 100th best players in the world are not happy with shrinking it down as far as they have to begin with. And this is like a very valid reason for them to push back and be like, you've already made it so much harder for us to keep our cards. And now you're giving these free handouts to people that we're actually playing better than. Like, it's not an even play field. So yeah, that's the whole thing about this community. We can find something, put a megaphone behind it, and hopefully it sparks some actual change.
Dude, big changes within the community. Like, shout out Rick and Pat for being in the golf bet suite. Like, that looks awesome. I texted them both. Super cool, because I can remember like 3-4 years ago, like at the DFS Open, and just speaking with them and coming up, it was like, if we ever got this opportunity, we feel like we would perform well, and we feel like we could add value to the broadcast. And like the fact that a few years later it's essentially become a reality shows how far, you know, these little niche gambling pods can eventually go if they're grown in the right way with the right people supporting them. So shout out to them. Did you have anyone quick credit check before we kind of shift gears to Caves?
I'm gonna give the credit back to Cameron Young. Like I kind of mentioned it at the beginning, but like for a number of reasons. One, kept the train rolling. I think he's a lock for Bethpage now. He won and he kept the pedal down. Elite putter this season, completely turned that into a strength. Who would have thought? But it's true now. And he just like he talked the talk and he backed it up. Like you didn't know in that press conference when they asked about like, hey, why haven't you gotten it done? And his answer was, I always play well on Sundays. I just, I can't help it if Cam Smith shoots 7 under at the Open. I finished runner up, whatever. I played well. And some of that, I took that as like a little bit of a coping mechanism of like, well, I haven't won yet, but it's not my fault. I've been playing well. But it's true. Like he actually is a good golfer on Sunday, and he had been running through a string of things that he can't control. I was salty about him getting run down by Peter Malnati. I think he could have played a little bit better there at the Valspar. And I think I was a bit frustrated that he didn't birdie 18 at the Canadian Open earlier this year as he was. But you look at it, and
that was kind of a bad break, though. He went for it. Like that was one of the ones that I was talking about with Fleetwood, where you're like, I forgive you.
Yeah.
Because you hit an incredible shot, like going for the pin, thinking that at the time that you needed to make eagle.
Yeah.
And like,
no, he executed.
Yeah.
It came off hot on his club, and like he hit the shot he needed to. He buckled down in a pressure shot. And these are things you look back in hindsight, and it's like, I got to give my credit back to Cameron Young because he's not a choker. We know what a choker looks like. I'm sorry, Tommy Fleetwood, but you look at those 2 weeks back and forth, and Cameron Young was the guy who said, "This is my moment. I'm going to take it." And Tommy Fleetwood said, "I hope I can hold on for dear life and nobody catches me. Let's see what happens." And it's just such a stark difference between those two, where you really have to like bucket these people who haven't reached their potential yet into two categories of like just unlucky and just isn't doing the things you need to do to win tournaments. And they're in two different leagues now.
Yep. And the things I've kind of always harped on this, but I think two of the biggest things you have to do to win tournaments is everyone leans on approach play because it's the most consistent in terms of predicting like floor levels of success. So what I mean by that, it's a little murky there, but Colin Morikawa, Tommy Fleetwood are two great examples of incredible approach players. Justin Thomas, who are struggling to get across the finish line. You want to predict wins, find me a guy who drives it well and putts it well. And Cameron Young continues to putt it really well. He was plus 6.5 strokes off the tee last week at the St. Jude. The next best player in the field was Scotty Scheffler at 4. So he was 2.5 strokes better off the tee than Scotty Scheffler. If he does those two things well, he's going to win a lot of golf tournaments. So shout out to Cameron Young. Moving ahead, let's talk a little Caves Valley, John. Give me your initial breakdown of the course. There have been several changes, which I have a tweet up here from Ron Close that I can outline if you don't have any of it. But it looks to be a very different situation from what we saw in 2021. They've changed the scorecard a little bit. They've added some length to the course. They've recontoured some greens. They've grown the rough up a little bit. What do you make of this? Or where are you putting your eggs in terms of player skill sets and what you're looking for in attributes in a player?
Yeah. They were very slow to release this information. I will say.
Yeah. They still don't have the greens, like the GSAA report out. So I just got it from Ron.
Yes. I was looking for that because I was really feeling like it was such a joke in 2021, the way that they ripped it apart. And every time that happens, it's happened at Craig Ranch, they rip it up and they say, all right, we're not going to let that happen again. So I was anticipating small things happening.
Yeah.
I think these are a collection of marginal changes. I don't think it dramatically changes the course. What I do think will be very different this year from 2021, absent these changes, is the course was waterlogged in 2021. It was mud balls everywhere. Remember, it was lift clean placed around that it wasn't mud balls. And it was very point and shoot. You couldn't miss a fairway because it just landed in the fairway and stopped. You couldn't miss a green because it just landed on the green and stopped. People were holing things from everywhere because whatever, they weren't like contoured the way they probably should be. Patrick Cantlay like broke a record for most strokes gained putting. He was actually pretty average to mediocre from tee to green that week, but he hit every single putt. That was a strange week for me. I had a Bryson outright, and it was the last week of one and done, and I picked Cantlay, and I ended up winning more money through one and done than I would have with the outright. But I was like leaning more towards Bryson anyway because there was like a community element to it.
Do you remember them getting into it too?
What happened?
Like, do you remember Bryson and Patrick getting into it too? Like they had this little like feud where like they were kind of going after each other a little bit. I remember at one point like Bryson stopped mid backswing and he was like, "Patrick, can you stop moving?" and like kind of yelled at him a little bit. So it was an entertaining, albeit at 27 under, birdie fest. It was an entertaining sort of duel between those two guys who are going to be teammates in a few weeks.
Yeah. Well, this was I feel like peak Brooks Bryson beef 2021. Like Bryson was not a likable guy even by golf fans at this time.
Yeah.
But it was one of those weeks where like it just looked like a Bombers course. It was long. That's all we knew about it. And Bryson, I remember it. He opened at 35-1, and everybody that I know, the group chat was firing that morning. Like, we have to bet Bryson. He's 35-1. And it got bet down like immediately. I've never seen so many people make the same bet at the same time as Bryson is at this course. So anyway, won't be as wet. Is slightly longer, 75-42, I believe, in 2021. That's what I was going off of when I wrote the article. It looks like they lengthened it close to 7,600, which is like 40 or so extra yards. Not huge over the collection of 18 holes. I don't think that really changes the way this course is going to play. And then there's a big misconception about like, oh, it's not a 72 anymore. It's a par 70. Like, okay, the scorecard will be, 2 strokes. It'll be 8 strokes less if you shoot the same score now. It'll just look like it didn't go as high, but they didn't really change the hole. So if you were making a 4 on an easy par 5 before, you're still making the same 4. You're still shooting the same total number of strokes over the course of the round. That doesn't make me rule out birdies are better gained and scrambling in difficult conditions just because they changed the par score on 2 holes. So I'm not overreacting to that. The contouring stuff makes me feel like this will be less of a birdie fest. It's not just pick the best putters who can get the hottest, because it did need to be recontoured. That's why Patrick Cantlay holed as many putts as he did. I remember watching that tournament and everybody was holding everything from everywhere. I remember Sam Burns, Sung Jae just got super hot with the putter because the greens were probably super flat because they weren't used to hosting PGA Tour pros. So I'm glad they did that. Otherwise, yes, narrowing some fairways.
What about that? I was going to ask you about that. So it's I don't know how official this is, but thicker rough approaching 4 inches, which if it's like that is legit. Fairways narrowed. We don't know how much. It could be a yard. It could be 10 yards.
Yeah.
But does that change anything for you if we start to get more information this week in terms of player profiles? Do you think it's still bomb and gouge like it was in 2021 and just driver heavy golf course? Or do you think that this allows room or space for more accurate players to have a chance, even though it's 7,600 yards in a par 70?
Yeah, I think when they make these efforts to toughen up a course, it always ends up going back to favoring the Bombers, because if they pinch the fairways and if you're missing a fairway and it's thick and you're not hitting a short wedge there, you're not hitting a club as short as some of the other longer hitters who have something more lofted, you're still disadvantaged. So unless you're like Tommy Fleetwood last week and you hit every single fairway, that like you're going to do great at any course if you do that. But I'm still leaning towards distance advantage, and specifically the long iron approach stuff. I mean, last time we were here in 2021, 60% of the approaches were over 175 yards. Now they've lengthened it a bit more. Granted, it's not as soft, so you'll get a bit more rollout. That'll make the course play a little bit shorter, but it is going to still rain a little bit. So I don't think it just because it's not like flooded doesn't mean it won't be a little bit receptive. So I'm still all in on Bombers here, but maybe a little bit less of a putting contest than I would have thought before seeing the recontouring stuff.
Very fair. All right, let's talk some players on the odds board. Before I do that, got to mention the promo code LINES to receive 25% off any BetSperts subscription. Both PGA Tout and Tour Picks models are up now over on BetSperts. Real quickly, the top 5 in my model this week: Scotty Scheffler, Kurt Kitayama, Rory McIlroy, Chris Gotterup, Xander Schauffele. So you can see I was leaned pretty heavily into off the tee and power and distance based on those 5 guys. You can get my full model breakdown. You can get John's full model breakdown. You can get many others, and you can best yet build your own model over at BetSperts. Promo code there is LINES. Okay, John, let's get to the odds board. Let's make some picks. Let's see if we can finally try to nab a winner here to kind of close out the season. Your favorite at shorter odds than he was last week, plus 250 is the best number available over at Bet365. That's Scotty Scheffler, world number 1. Not sure if you've seen anything about whether or not he'll have Ted Scott on the bag. That was a little wrinkle that was thrown into the effect on Sunday. May have had something to do with not a great performance by Scheffler there, but still the prohibitive favorite. Rory right behind him at plus 750 makes his FedEx Cup Playoffs debut. Then you have Xander Schauffele, 18-1, Fleetwood, 20-1, Ludwig, 22, JT, 25. Patrick Cantlay has cracked into the top of the odds board at 25-1. Your defending champion at Caves Valley. And then you get Cameron Young at 30-1. That's the top 8 or so on the odds board, John. What do you like here? Have you made any plays? Are you sort of honing in on a certain player or their skills near the top?
Yeah, I'm pretty locked in on 2 guys, and I was going to bet them regardless of their number, but I haven't bet them yet because I'm waiting to see all of the without markets come out. The without markets I saw the first thing this morning when I looked at everything was without Scotty and Rory, which I thought was interesting. I don't really, and like, honestly, I am pretty scared of Rory here. Like, he played fairly well at this event in 2021. It's Fazio. It rewards Bombers. He's in great form, 3 straight top 10s. Rested for whatever that's worth. Didn't want to play last week. Does want to play this week. You could make the argument like he doesn't have to play this week either. So he's making a choice to show up at this event for whatever that's worth. But Rory is scary here. Like, he fits this course perfectly. And obviously Scotty is Scotty. But it's enough for me if like that market exists where I can bet without either of them and I can get a decent number and I only like 2 guys like a lot here, then I'll entertain the thought of avoiding both of them. What do you think about
your 2?
My 2 are Xander and Cam Young.
Okay, I'm in on Cam Young.
I think he'll be popular this week. Obviously, he's playing well, top 5 last week, putting the lights out, bomber. Like, it all makes sense. Yeah, that grass.
I think the Bermuda, he struggles a lot in Bermuda, really chipping. Like, that's where he lost the tournament last week. He lost 4 strokes around the green. So I think being back on bent will be a huge beneficial element to Cam Young because it's what he's most familiar at.
Yeah, flusher with long irons too, and I think that's what I like about Xander as well. For all his faults this year, he's been elite with the long irons the whole season. It's just the accuracy that's hurt him. And if they're pinching the fairways and lengthening it, I like that even more for Xander because if everybody's missing him anyway, he's going to launch it out there. And you know, it's giving me a lot of Valhalla from everything that I've seen.
Me too. I thought Valhalla Memorial. Like, I'm just thinking Midwest, tough. Like, especially if the rough is up, kind of cheesy, not cheesy, but like a bit gimmicky in the sense of like little that look like man-made sort of streams that kind of impact holes. And it doesn't have the natural aesthetic that you would see at some, more classical golf courses. So it kind of gave me those vibes as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And Xander needs to see a Valhalla type of course where you can just swing that driver, go full bore, and not really care if you're going to miss a fairway. If they're growing it out to 4-inch rough, like, yes, you do have to worry about him consistently playing out of there. But he's so skilled, and you should be skilled all around. At a BMW Championship, you look at the winners of this event, they're all high class players. So I'm good with taking a very top heavy short card approach this week. I'm just waiting on the without markets, but I'm also very consequential one and done week. It's the last week of the one and done season. I've been committed on Xander for like the last month, maybe 2 months, maybe even since the last major, I guess, like setting my lineup for the rest of the year. And I was just like, Caves Valley sets
Nico, Tommy.
Yeah, exactly. That's
Dude,
it's
you
been
could be running
predetermined.
away with it.
Yeah. I mean, that drop for Tommy from being in second to T3 with Scheffler catching him was expensive.
Yeah.
So I'm in 25th in Mayo's thing.
Oh my God, you'd
And
probably be winning it, dude. If Nico won and Tommy won,
I would literally be winning if Nico.
that's like 6 million right there.
Yeah. If the person I picked to win this week, and I'm like 75-25 leaning towards Xander over Cam, but I'm gonna pick one of those two. If they win, I can get in the top 10, which would be a nice payout. So I do need to get that right, and I care just like 2021 Caves Valley is the only other time I've had a good run in Mayo is one and done. I'm gonna care more about the one and done finish than the rest of my betting card because we've got a lot on the line there.
We'll be rooting you on, man. You know, it was funny because I was looking like after Friday, like mid-round Friday, they started posting like some of the FedEx Cup projections. And like Xander was right on the top 50 line. And I was like, holy hell, he needs a really good week to make the Tour Championships. He had a good weekend to kind of rally there, which gives me a little bit of confidence, but it's a season of disappointment for him. 0 top fives. This is obviously a nice fit. It's a no-cut event. There's only 50 players. Really kind of got to get things going in the right direction to sort of save and provide some hope, I think, headed into the offseason for Schauffele. I did go Cam Young, like I mentioned. I am really close, John, in like flirting with Ludwig. I picked him here last year. He kind of burned me. I've had a lot of like second place and close calls on Ludwig over the years. I didn't nail either of his victories, but the ball striking is fully back. I kind of do believe in that. He's gained strokes. He's gained a minimum of 1 stroke off the tee and 1 stroke on approach now in 5 straight events. The ball striking numbers have been really good. The last 3 events have been pretty awesome. T8, T23, T9 last week at the FedEx St. Jude. Hasn't really gotten anything going with the putter, but 4th in greens and regulation, still top 5 in ball speed. So you're talking about a course where distance can be a big factor. He just really needs to avoid that round where he goes in the wrong direction. And that's what's kind of worrying me in like the 22-1 range because, it's a player that I thought had a much nicer price point last week. And he's one of the guys. Most of the guys I feel like are right around the same number. In Ludwig, I think we've seen a significant drop. I think I got him at 35 last week. So tough to kind of stomach that, although I'm really close to going back. But Cam Young is the play that I've made kind of at the top of the board thus far. And then I've got one moving down sort of in this next range. We get Spaun at 33-1, Morikawa there at 33, Henley, Ben Griffin, Victor Hovland, Sam Burns all at 35-1. Then in the 40s, you have Christopher Goddard, Matt Fitzpatrick, Hideki, Justin Rose at 45, Kurt Kitayama at 50, Corey Connors at 50, Harris English, Mav McNeely, Akshay Bhatia. Those are just some kind of names in this mid-range of the odds board. Anyone here that you like, John, or are you going to kind of stick with the Xander Cam Young combo and just roll with the 2-man card?
Yeah, I might have room. I got to really cost it out. I think I could probably get one more. And if I do, I'm looking at Hideki. Like I like the way he's playing. I think he's figuring out the driving a little bit more. It was completely off the rails for most of the season, and now it's back to like kind of neutral. The approach has been fantastic, like peak Hideki levels on approach, and just like a very consistent string of top 20s. We haven't really seen that pop Hideki week in a while, and it feels like it's kind of building towards it. I feel like we might get a Hideki eruption soon. And a BMW like kind of feels like a Hideki spot, like hit it long, hit long iron approaches. Like I go straight to Hideki when I think of long iron approach play, and just a very good around the green player. So if it was 2021 Caves Valley, I wouldn't even think about Hideki because I'd be worried about it, pouring it up on the greens and being able to get to a number. But you know, that seems like it's less the case this week. So if it's not a pure putting contest, it's not going to be a birdie fest. Hideki's interesting to me.
Okay, I can get behind Hideki. I actually went Matt Fitzpatrick at 40-1. So Cam and Fitz are the two guys on my card right now. He's top 5 in strokes gained total. A lot of good finishes. He got absolutely slaughtered off the tee at the St. Jude last week. Lost over 5 strokes, essentially with the driver. I'm under the assumption that he likely found the water a few too many times. But that was his first sort of lackluster performance in the last month and a half. 8th, 4th, 8th before that. He's absolutely putting the lights out right now. The approach play is super dialed. 3rd best in the field in greens and regulation. 2nd best around the green. Top 10 putter. 13th in ball speed. So he's got that there working for him. He's still got enough speed and enough power off the tee. And he just doesn't make bogeys very often. 3rd in bogey avoidance as well. So a player that's just been in really good form. And, I feel like has been right around that 25 to 30-1 price. And now he, T32 finish, still barely in the top half of the field. And we get a little bit of a discount on what I think is a decent course fit for Matty Fitz here. The other guy I was wondering about, and I was going to ask you if you had a take on, I went Victor Hovland pretty big last week. He was my biggest play. He's now at 35-1, which is a really nice price. And when you talk about Valhalla, when you talk about Memorial, these Midwest bent grass courses with water and thick rough, and courses where, really reward aggression, I think he's a nice course fit. He had a bad week at St. Jude, really bad opening round. But it does feel like maybe I shouldn't be scared. And if I was on it last week, I should like it just as much this week. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I was very high on him too. I bet 3 guys, him, Henley, and Tommy. And once Tommy was like, leading everything early, I like kind of just forgot about the other guys and fixated.
Yeah, he kind of rallied a little bit.
Yeah. I don't know where Victor is with the long iron stuff, because I know like just general approach play has been great throughout the bag. So if he's doing it well, on the long irons, then it's obviously another good spot. I think scrambling could come into play a little bit more here than in 2021. If again, they're pinching the fairways, growing out the rough, those are things that are going to lead to less greens and regulation, where he's going to have to lean on that. So this just doesn't feel like the type of course where you're going to hit every fairway and green and regulation. And I for some reason, I just prefer Victor in those settings. And the reason is just the scrambling stuff. But if it ends up being similarly as scoreable as it was in 2021, and he can just point and shoot throughout the week, then he's still one of the best approach players in the field.
Yeah, best approach player in the field. Look, it was, I just went through Data Golf. It was a +4 over round on Thursday, where he got started on the wrong foot, kind of rallied there, was 8 under the rest of the tournament. Look, if he shoots 1 under on Thursday, like a very modest middle of the road score, he ends up in the top 10. He's 9 under for the tournament. He's in the top 10. Everyone loves him this week. So I might be talking myself into Victor. Any long shots for you, or is this one of those events that you think is going to be done by the big dog? Can I interest you in the hometown kid, Denny McCarthy at 80-1? Do I go back? Dare I play Denny in Maryland on a Bombers course, or what? Am I crazy talking?
Keep going back to the Memorial. The Memorial correlation. You got him and Vic on the card, then you're just hoping to run that year back. Yeah, I mean, I think I remember in 2021 him being hot on the press junket for this event. He knows this course really well. It's back in Maryland. He's the only tour player from this area.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, if you're gonna play a long shot, I think that makes sense. I was kind of looking at Ryan Fox as a long shot. I played him last week because the approach numbers were looking really good. and you just couldn't really keep it on the planet or
125.
do anything else. But this is a better course fit for him. He's won twice this year. Just generally, like, form's still pretty good. So if I go like in DFS, like I'm probably going Ryan Fox. I'm going back to that well this week. But for outrights, it's gonna be 2 or 3 guys max.
Same here, buddy. Full card out Wednesday. Will be out. You will publish yours as well. The article now breaking down all the critical need to know elements for Caves Valley is up now over at the lines. John, thank you so much for another great show. We've got one more week until the Tour Championship. We'll catch you next week. Listen, we trust the process. We're bound to break through here. We are knocking on the door. And it's coming, man. Best of luck this week in the one and done. Let me know if you take Xander Schauffele. On behalf of John Haselbauer, my name is Joe Idoni. This has been another episode of the Preferred Lines podcast, previewing the 2025 BMW Championship. You all have a great week out there. Best of luck. Hit a winner. We'll see you next week. Peace.